Assalamualaikum. We are the Group 8 and we will report about Standard 2300 or performing the engagement. So I am Seliha Rasuman and I will be the first reporter. The second reporter would be Ms. Rahman. The third reporter would be Mr. Abinal and the last would be Mr. Ali. Internal auditors must identify, analyze, evaluate, and document sufficient information or SAE, sufficient appropriate audit evidence or information to achieve the engagement's objectives. Here the process in performing the engagement. We have 7 steps and I will give credits to Sir Ariel Nashon, our reviewer in auditing, which he tend to give us acronyms for us to be familiarized with the concepts in auditing. So we have PAPOTOCR. P for pre-engagement, A is for acceptance, P is for planning, U is for understanding, T is for testing, C is for completing, and R is for reporting. So for pre-engagement, in here, the audit firm will see if the applicable engagement or transaction would be fit for the auditor and the client. And for acceptance, in here, we have the integrity of the auditor, wherein client will pay the fee and the auditor will serve the public by performing a appropriate audit. And for planning, in here, it is the earliest point where fraud can happen. So for understanding, we have the RAP or the risk assessment procedure, and for testing, we have here the further assessment procedure. We will tackle here the test of control or TOC and ST, which is substantive test, and for completing, we will encounter here the going concern, related parties, and subsequent events. And for reporting, in here, the basis or the evidence of the opinion or the auditor would communicate to the auditee the his or her opinion. And if there is no evidence in here, the auditor would disclaim an opinion. So for better understanding, the step 1 would be define audit objectives. So prior to audit, there will be a conduct of preliminary planning and information gathering phase. The assigned auditor defines the audit objectives and likely scope of the audit. The auditor starts to develop the audit program to define the audit testing procedures. This step occurs after the audit has been assigned and, where applicable, typically involves a review of the results from the last time an audit of the area occurred. So the step 2 would be audit announcement. Once the audit objectives have been defined, the auditor formally issues an audit engagement memo to the management of the area that will be audited. The memo's distribution list may include senior administration officials that have responsibility for that entity or unit. The purpose of the memo is to introduce the objectives of the audit, to detail the planned review process, and to set the expectations for the course of the audit. Step 3 would be audit entrance meeting. So auditor initially meets with the client or the auditee to discuss the audit scope and subsequent audit steps. At this meeting, the auditee should provide an overview of major programs and operations, relevant contact names, relevant policies and procedures, and other information that will assist the auditor in the fieldwork. We will also discuss the expected length of the audit. For step 4 is the fieldwork. So the auditor here gathers information and performs audit testing in order to gain an understanding of internal controls. The auditor examines the documents and other records for evidence to determine whether effective internal controls are in place. During the audit fieldwork, the auditor may also perform detailed testing of transactions, evaluate compliance with existing policies and adherence to external regulations, and review system-related requests for the integrity and completeness of the audit, and the auditor will request additional information and documents as needed. So for step 5, it is reviewing and communicating results. If the auditor identifies potential control weaknesses, policy or procedural violations, or other areas of concern during the course of the fieldwork, they are discussed with the auditee. Throughout the audit, the auditor will discuss any observations with management in order to ensure that any identified issue and associated risk are fully understood and to obtain agreement on proposed recommendations. The results or the findings of the audit, once confirmed, are communicated in the audit report. So for step 6, at the conclusion of the fieldwork, the auditor formally meets with the management to discuss the observations and recommendations that will be contained in or included in the audit report. So recommendations are discussed and agreed upon by both parties to ensure that the management response is reasonable and achievable. So for the last step would be the audit report. Management is expected to review audit issues and recommendations for completeness and accuracy, which are the assertions in audit, and prepare a formal response and action plan. So the audit issues the formal audit report, which is used to inform the auditee or client, the management, about any identified concerns and control weaknesses, and where and how these areas should be addressed. All reports are summarized into a separate report. And after that audit report, we may also have a post-audit, the follow-up audit, or the survey audit, which will be the evaluation if the audit opinion is provided by the auditor was effective.